Talk show.
Recorded live.
Good evening and welcome to our podcast. It's Saturday, March 22nd, 2014. We are Freedom from Covert Harassment and Surveillance. We are here each Saturday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time to educate and assist those who are targeted with organized stalking and electromagnetic attacks, and to let you know that you are not alone and that there are many thousands and millions of us nationwide and worldwide working together for our freedom. Views expressed during our podcast are those of our callers and not necessarily those of FFCHS. I'd like to introduce our guest this evening, Dr. Robert Duncan. He is the author and former Department of Defense scientist. He is extremely knowledgeable and has made many appearances on internet, radio, and TV speaking about our issues. He has often been an advisor to our community from the time he first arrived on the scene in 2005. He has also been a mentor to those who are technically trained since he has worked firsthand with some of the technology being used against us. His books include The Matrix Deciphered, Project Soul Catcher, and most recently, How to Tame a Demon. Although his time with us is limited tonight, we appreciate his being here to share his knowledge and experience of these secret projects, which are victimizing targeted individuals. So at this time, we welcome to our program Dr. Robert Duncan.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate you asking me to be on this call. And actually how I wanted to start out is I feel that I owe the TI community an apology from a couple radio shows I did, the Pete Santelli show. A few people felt that what I had to say was disheartening and that I was saying there was no hope. There absolutely is hope. I say that this is a complete surveillance system and that they've locked it up, just given the current political situation. We live in a police state now, so it's going to be difficult to bring all these atrocities to light. Many countries had to go through this time in history. And so I wanted to apologize. I've said it on the Jesse Ventura show too, but what I see going on with your organization, I'm very impressed. You've come a long way, and you're starting to organize into groups. You have a book group, a legal group, a medical group, and a technical group, and that's the way it has to be done. You have to have smaller groups that focus on achieving a multifaceted attack, basically, against the enemy, which unfortunately, hides in the dark crevices. What else would I like to say is don't panic. Panic and fear is what it thrives on. The system thrives on, and there are many reasons for that. So if more you panic, worse it's going to become your targeting. And there's a way to relax. Some people can use drugs like Valium or Xanax, but if there's a way you can use meditation or other techniques, it will go very far. Try to stay rational, try to stay calm, but also be prepared for the long run. This probably isn't going to be solved in 1 year, probably not even 10 years. And within 20, it definitely will be, because this will be civilian technology. And then I have some recommendations just in terms of a group, and it sounds like this group's become well organized, but in other groups that I've listened to, one of the techniques that is used by the CIA, Department of Defense, or any warfare strategy unit is to divide and conquer, is to try to have people invade the group and troll and basically try to get everyone to dislike everybody. And so you can never have one large unified group working on the same cause. Always try to avoid that. Sounds like you guys are doing a good job. Try to stay out of the wrong rabbit holes. If, for an example, you believe this is alien technology, well, if you say that to anybody, That's the discrediting factor. We can't say that. And plus, an alien technology would be 1 million years more advanced, not just 50 years more advanced than what the civilians know. Avoid isolation. So you're in a group now. If you're listening to this call, that's good. But it's also good to have for non-TI friends, try to maintain a balanced life. If you get too sucked into this, it will only get worse. So avoid drama on any of these support groups. And let me see here. When I wrote down some notes here. Always use the scientific method when you're doing experimentation. It's good to do experimentation, especially for the individual. Some people find passive shielding will dampen a lot of the effects, but it doesn't work 100% for everybody. But I know Neil has put together a technical group, and I'm going to try to help advise them. But I'm estimating a group of 10,000 people worldwide who are vocal here on the internet. You have to have 100 test subjects for a 95% confidence level that particular, jammer, shielding technique, drug, whatever it may be, is having an effect to help the TI community. And you must stick with the scientific principles if you're going to publish, or if you're going to have any credibility in a court system. I also have a little bit of advice, and this is just from my experience with talking with TIs. Don't assume you know who is behind it. I hear things from, it's the Zionists, or it's the Chinese, or the Russians, or it's my neighbor, and everybody has an idea who's behind it. You actually don't, because the mind control is so powerful, and their techniques so advanced, and they can use voice transformation and other techniques that will make you assume you know who it is. They can use correlated events. Every time your neighbor comes home, you feel like they're being microwaved. Well, correlation does not mean causality, and you have to be careful about that. Pointing fingers at groups and assigning blame and things like that. And, every TI is going to do it because you want to know who is this? And, it is hard to think that anyone could be betrayed by somebody they didn't even know. And then I'd say my final recommendation is just look at the big picture. So let's just look at the legal picture, for example. You go to your state. You win, even if you could win a lawsuit in your state. Michigan has laws against electronic weapons. They can't be enforced because this is something bigger. This is federal. So let's say it even makes it to the Supreme Court. But this is classified, and this has been done by the CIA for a long time, along with other agencies experimenting on the citizens. And this is worldwide. There's no way any agency or government could possibly admit this level of assassination and torture without a complete collapse. So know what you're dealing with. That's going to take a long time to be solved. So go for the long haul. If you're about to be destitute, well, you need to get on disability. You paid into the system. If you have other resources, okay, that's good, but just know that it's not going to be solved in a month or a year. And to read the book, like How to Tame a Demon, that will give you some ideas what to try, and you're going to have to figure it out yourself, coping mechanisms to make your life better, that you can actually deal with it. But in very few cases have they been released from these programs. And that's about all I had to say. So I'm open for questions from the audience.
Thank you, Dr. Duncan. Let me unmute people in the order that they asked to be unmuted. It'd be only fair. It'd take me just 1 second to scroll up this huge list. I think we probably have a record number of people here tonight. All righty. This gentleman was first. Uh-oh. Board's moving a little slow. We got a record number of people. That could be why. There we go. Welcome, Keith 57. Do you have a question for Dr. Duncan?
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Duncan, and thank you, Karen, for moderating tonight. I just wanted to ask about the synthetic telepathy and the mind reading, first of all, and then just one other follow-up maybe is home invasion. And so the first thing is how far advanced has the synthetic telepathy or the mind reading gone? It appears to me that it's actually gone to the stage where they can actually retrieve individual passwords for your online accounts, and then of course the extreme mocking that level of invasive assault on your psyche would could be done.
Yeah.
And,
okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Now go ahead. If you want to answer that, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. It's in fact it was a research team recently in California showed with $150 headset just reading EEG waves off of your scalp, that by showing digits of the person's passwords, assuming they're looking at it, you have to force their concentration on it, they could hack passwords by reading what's called the P300 signal and a delay in it. So obviously, yes, they can hack your passwords, but they can do it even more cleverly, that your brain, once they entrain your brain, rewire it to speak in thought rather than in pictures. About 40% of the population thinks in pictures, but they can retrain it to think in words. You will silently sound out your passwords every time you type, and they can read that from you, and that's part of the synthetic telepathy. Synthetic telepathy actually goes much further. They can read your emotional state, and stress levels are important, and that's why on these torture programs, they can sense if stalking bothers you, if other things. And you were asking about the break-ins. Well, why do they do the break-ins? The break-ins aren't actually to steal money from you. That's not why they're doing it. It's the same as stalking. They're trying to increase your stress levels. So whatever you cherish most, that is what they're going to attack. It could be a book you're reading. It could be a pair of clothes that you love that they'll cut up. But it's whatever you love. And generally, they don't try to steal anything of value. But with synthetic telepathy, absolutely, they can read your emotional state. They can induce an emotional state within the target. And this is very useful. This has so many purposes in warfare and spying and controlling populations. And the list goes on. There are over, a couple hundred uses that have been cataloged of this technology. Did I answer your question okay?
Yes, very well. And just one quick, maybe a little more in-depth on the invasion. Is it possible that this has gotten to a point where it's supernatural? And the reason I say that is because it appears that they're able to come into my house and avoid or bypass every security measure or every humanly possible entry point. In other words, if all of my windows are completely secured and my doors are completely secured, yet it still appears that they're able to get in even while I'm sleeping. And just I had an article of clothing. It was a sock that while I was sleeping just about a week ago. And you know how sometimes you go to bed in a cooler weather with socks on your feet, and then maybe you get warm in the middle of the night and you pull the socks off with your feet. and I had one of the socks just disappeared. It was nowhere to be found.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there are other explanations. So one TI was helping out trying to explain these break-ins. They set up a pretty good security system in their house to figure out, what was going on. And it turned out that TI was being controlled while they were in a hypnotized state to basically perp themselves. And I had to get it on film to show them that they were actually sleepwalking or hypnotized walking, and someone was taking control of their mind and, altering their environment.
Okay.
So, no, I don't believe in supernatural. All the physics I know, you can't time travel, you can't transport anything. I don't know any technology like that.
Okay, well, great. Well, that definitely answers my question that it's possible that I may be sleepwalking. So thank you very much for answering those questions.
Sure.
We have another caller from California. I'm sorry, the other California. You weren't number 2 in line. Our other callers from California, number 2. Thank you for answering that, Dr. Duncan.
Yeah.
California,
hi.
Do you have a question?
Hi.
One question per person. Okay, not multiple questions. Let's keep it simple. We have a lot of people in line.
No problem. I guess the big question of the night is, will you testify for people?
Oh, I've been asked to do a lot of personal cases, and I've done a little bit in the past, and it's always come back to bite me in the ass. And remember, I cannot divulge anything that I have sworn an oath to, or they will assassinate me, or they will imprison me in isolation. It just won't work. Plus, I need to hear your legal strategy. I can advise on that. Who are you suing? I mean, what results do you really expect to get? It is already illegal against the Constitution to be torturing people around the world. It's an international crime. So you actually have to have proof. You can't just say, look, I feel this. How do you acquire this proof of a very advanced,
Well, I have it on my
sophisticated
surveillance.
technology?
I have waves coming into my house on my surveillance.
You won't be able to see waves, but if you can find individuals and then you can link them back to the CIA, well, then you sue the CIA or whoever they work for. But as far as I've seen, I haven't seen any proof that a jury would accept with a great defense lawyer from whoever you're suing. I don't know which government agency or whatever you have planned.
Well, I'm just trying to get my neighbor who is a ham operator, who has monitors on his walls. This is what he does, and I do have waves on my surveillance, and I'll put that on. It's actually I'm a friend of yours. It's Kathleen Watterson, and if you go to my Facebook, in my album, you can actually see those videos.
Well, I'm confused. So you're seeing the waves in a video camera? So
on a surveillance.
Okay, so his electronic equipment is interfering with your surveillance equipment. Is that what you're saying?
Right. Well, I put it up there to protect myself, and glory hallelujah, all of a sudden these waves started appearing, and I have thousands of them.
Okay, but it's a big leap to go from radio wave interference of my surveillance equipment to I'm being targeted by his equipment in my bioelectromagnetic, body. You haven't proven that leap. Right.
Well, I have that actually. He's running around this desert telling everybody about his microwave frequencies. So, but anyway, I see your point.
Yeah, and I'm just saying it's much harder to prove than you think it is. I agree. You might be able to say every time he's home, I feel this pain. So you can prove correlation, but that doesn't prove causality. And, the scientific evidence is still, it's out there, but it's hard to, let's say you were in front of a court, to prove to a local court that this technology exists. So you may be fingering the wrong person, is all I'm saying. Because you got to remember, this is going on all around the world, in every country in the world, not just your hometown, not just your neighbor, not just your state, not just the United States. It's everywhere it's going on. So this has to be something much bigger and global. And so that's just my opinion. It's doubtful that it's your neighbor doing it.
Okay.
All right, my opinion.
Hi, we have a caller from West North Carolina. Did you have a question?
Oh, yes. Thank you, Dr. Duncan. I was wondering is it possible that there is a simpler technology that people are using? My remote perps are telling me it's cell phone. All you need is a cell phone and maybe a cell phone camera. Is it possible that it's simpler than what we might think?
No. This is actually the most complex technology that mankind has ever invented. It involves many fields of science. And what they want to do is make people go down the wrong rabbit hole. They want you to think it's really simple. They want you to think it's a handheld ham radio. But that's just not the way it works. It's much, much more complicated. And so, no. The answer is no. It's not done by cell phones.
And as far as V2K, it's caused by what?
V2K is a complicated one. It involves 4 different technologies. One of them is quite well known, which is the microwave hearing effect, which causes thermal expansion of the brain to the inner ear, and you can hear a voice projected at the skull. But what's really going on with synthetic telepathy is your audio cortex has been rewired to specifically receive a signal only for you. So you're acting like a cell phone.
Right. Mm-hmm. Okay.
And there are a couple other technologies like ultrasonic heterodyning that can do it, and a few other things. But it's a really complex neuroscience, bioelectromagnetic technology.
And
very complex.
Do you necessarily need a chip? Because I don't believe I've been chipped.
No, and that's a difficult question for me. I know a lot of people believe it's a microchip, and those theories floated around for many years. And in the old days, yes, of course they chipped human beings. That was the current state of the technology, and it makes the problem by tracking and identifying human beings simpler. But when many people got MRIs, X-rays, and they failed to produce any significant size foreign bodies in their body, they decided, well, maybe it's a nanochip. And the problem with the theory of nanochips is you can build a EMP pulse weapon. It'll cost you about $1,000, and it will blow out any chip, any computer within 10-foot, 50-foot radius. And especially when the chips get smaller and smaller, they get more vulnerable to EMP pulse weapons. So this would be a simple solution to, if someone thought they were chipped, to short out the chip, and it wouldn't work right. So it's unlikely that it's a chip, possibly a contrast agent, which gets into MRI and ESR, electron spin resonance theory, and magnetic resonance imaging techniques might be used, and something that permanently attaches to the nerve cells of the human body could be used to, improve on the technology. But brain signatures are like fingerprints; they're unique enough that you can identify a specific brain signature from anybody else's. So, in my opinion, you don't need any sort of microchipping to do this. It makes it much easier with your microchip, but you don't need it. And there are other theories. I know Dr. Paul and ICAAT, I believe, they do scanning for microchips. And that's great. There is some, but there are many other theories of why you might be picking up radio frequency emissions from the human body. There are different resonances. Plus, like I said, if there was some sort of dying agent or of an MRI type resonant field on that particular body were being used, it would also emit radio frequency emission just from the centers of the atoms, the neutron spin, etc. I mean, there are a whole bunch of possibilities there that does not necessarily point to a microchip. And just in my experience, I've had a lot of people send me MRIs and other things, and the simple solution is, okay, you found them, have them removed. But I have yet to hear one example personally, maybe there are some out there, that they had the microchip removed or the abnormality in their MRI scan, and it gave them relief. I've never heard that. So I'm kind of against the theory of implants myself.
Thank you so much, and thanks for your courage and being so brave to help.
Thank you.
Strider 22, did you have a question?
Yes, I do. There's a lot of people that are concerned about having cell phones pointed at them out in the world when they're out and about. I was wondering if you had any input on those that are taking pictures of the possibility of taking that picture and putting it in something like an advanced biophoton analyzer and doing radionics distance projection of harmful frequencies?
I don't believe in that technology. The radionics came out of Russia. They say it requires no energy. I read a few of their papers, and it sounds like voodoo to me, to be honest.
Okay. Well,
you can't just put a picture in a box and then put a spell on somebody. I'm a scientist, so I can't go down there.
Right, yeah, you would want proof. Actually, my experience with electromedicine and healing people with genetically altered mycoplasmas and the whole Lyme disease complex, the work of Dr. Jeff Sutherland from the Frequency Foundation.
Yeah, well, that's different. They're actually injecting electromagnetic frequencies to try to break up the DNA of the bad cells and the cancerous cells, and that has a lot of plausibility. Radionics, as I understand it, requires no plug into the wall, nothing. It's just some sort of resonance filter. So maybe I misunderstand what radionics is.
Yeah, well, Dr. Jeff Sutherland was actually projecting the frequencies to a distance, and that was confirmed by Nina Silver, PhD, who wrote the 700.
But just by putting a picture, a digital picture, into a box, I mean, I don't understand that.
I'm just kind of wondering because when I was given an underground radionics book, my house was burned to the ground a week later.
Hmm.
Could have been just timing. I mean, it's something that I'd like to pursue and learn more about since I'm facilitator for R&D.
Neil, I may have some papers I can send you over the net.
All right, thank you.
Dr. Duncan, I have one quick question. I'm the moderator. This dust that can bind to every atom in your body and make you more, what did you say, to make you more visible?
Yes, susceptible, visible to certain frequencies,
Yeah, I believe I had that put in my fish oil, which I proceeded to take for God knows how long. I didn't notice it, that no light went through the box until quite a while after I'd been ingesting it. You said it attaches to every atom in your body. Well, don't your cells shed? Don't you make new cells and replace every cell in your body once every 7 years?
No, well, skin cells shed every 15. No, what is it? It's you shed 15 cells every week or something from the outer layer of your skin. But no, brain cells, nerve cells, no, they're almost for life. They never reproduce other than in childhood. They're permanent. You don't grow new brain cells.
Oh, well, that's okay.
I know.
Nice.
It was a good try. And I don't know any way of it detecting it, and obviously this would be very classified, and that's what they were using. But it's merely a theory. We don't have any proof of that.
Right, and if the person were to theoretically have ingested that, the type of theoretical technology used on them, would it be an MRI resonance type technology, or would it be...
It would. Yeah, it would be the two. There are about 26 different high-end energy physics surveillance techniques, and two that really do are pointed out are MRI and ESR. And a lot of people don't know what ESR is, but I find it very important in part of their surveillance technologies. And there are what are called spin tags, electron spin tags, that read the free radicals in your body, and they can permanently bind to some of the cells, and that would give feedback of your body's electrical systems, for example. Now, to detect them, if you actually have it, I mean, we're talking $1 million pieces of equipment, $10 million maybe for the equipment to detect it. But they're obviously doing it under Earth Gauss. Gauss is a magnetic field force.
Right.
And so it's very small, but it encompasses the Earth. And so you could hypothetically turn the Earth into an MRI machine or an ESR machine. And also to induce signals into the human nervous system using, let's say, the calcium C2 plus ion, which is at the synapses of each dendrite nerve cell. You would use something called cyclotron ion heating, would be a technique. And you can look this up and you can calculate under whatever part of the world you're at what the cyclotronic resonance frequencies would be for all the four major ions used in communication of your brain cells. Is there something about the strontium, barium, and aluminum in the chemtrails that's not just piggybacking HAARP, but putting these free radicals into us, and would taking antioxidants like megadosing vitamin C help to make us not so much of an antenna? Yeah, well, I do think there's something to that. I don't know about chemtrails. I don't study them. But absolutely, antioxidants, I do believe, would help lower some of the intensity of the attacks that people are feeling. Thank you.
Okay, we've got a bunch of other people waiting here. West Massachusetts, hi. Welcome. You have a question, Dr. Duncan?
Hi, this is Kate. Hi, Robert.
Hi, Kate.
Couple of questions. I notice if I touch my body when I feel like there's electricity or static, it actually feels like it's coming out of my body. And I was wondering if that's a way to identify that ESR is being used.
Well, it's a complicated question. Some experiments you can do on yourself, and there are many factors going on here. But if you change your body resonance, let's say you're under a severe attack, I mean, they're just frying you, and you grab onto metal and you point metal in different directions, you're going to notice that the attack is going to lessen at certain angles. You can use capacitors to change your body resonance, but the system adapts. It will adapt, and then it won't work anymore. And you can keep changing your body resonances, and it will give you some relief, and then it's going to readapt. Then there's another effect going on, which is kind of psychosomatic, that anytime you're in a semi-hypnotic state, they're doing brain entrainments. And so if you can break the brain entrainment, whatever it is, using music or, your tinnitus frequency that they inject in you, or even changing temperature, putting hot and cold on you, or anything that will break you out of that hypnotic trance will also lessen the intensity, because the majority of attacks of PIs aren't actually classified as directed energy. I mean, it is because it's you, but it's not what people are thinking masers. They're frying me in a very small beam under intense microwave energy. It's usually entrainments in the brain, and they're stimulating your pain centers of your different limbs and other things like that. So anything that will break you out of that entrainment will be beneficial.
Oh, great, thanks. And
Yep.
the other question I had was the other night I had this. I get a lot of infrasound. It's that very low, it's really disturbing.
Yeah, they call it the hum, the Taos hum. People.
And then all of a
cities.
sudden they raised it up and it went kind of like ooh, and then it hit me in the ear. Can you describe what that could be? It actually seems like it focused in on my ear all of a sudden.
Yeah, there's no way they could focus that at a distance because. So low rumbling. I mean, if you live near an airport several miles away, you can hear jets take off. Low frequency sounds travel long distances, but high frequency, like ultrasound, has very low penetration into buildings, through windows, anything like that. Doesn't go very far. So seeing that you were able to hear it at a high frequency means that it was probably projected sound into your audio cortex, the way you perceive sound, and it had nothing to do with external sounds around you.
Okay. And could that be from vehicles going by, or would it more likely be from what I'm seeing looks like little satellites or something like that?
No, they couldn't. No. So the sound, perceiving sound is different than the actual sound. Is a vibration through the air. It's a pressure wave, and that can be stopped. You could put in earplugs, but what V2K, for example, people who have it, at least the initial condition, they can make it seem like sound is being projected from a long distance away, while it's actually being projected into your head, the brain itself.
Yeah.
And so there is no physical pressure wave. It's being perceived, but we as human beings rely upon our senses to understand reality. So if you can override these 5 senses, roughly, they claim, then how does a human being have any idea what's really going on in their environment outside of their body? Right. So that's just one method they use to override one of the most important senses, our hearing. Now, I tried to do some research and find if there is a deaf person who was born deaf, no sign language, if they ever have V2K, and I couldn't find any examples. And it's because their audio cortex wouldn't be able to be rewired in that way. They don't understand sound as language. So, it's kind of interesting.
Well, thank you. I'll let somebody else ask you a question. Thanks a lot.
Okay, let's see if I can unmute Northwest California. Hello, Northwest California. Did you have a question?
Hello.
Oh. Hello.
Northwest California.
That's what this technology is for. Deaf people. That's the whole point. Use it for a good reason.
Okay, never mind there.
Yeah, I can hear that.
Sorry about that. California, let me unmute you. California, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Hi, Karen. How are you tonight?
Fine, thank you. How are you? Did you have a question for Dr. Duncan? And we'd like to keep it to one. We have a lot of people waiting.
I don't. I'm riveted here, though. However, thank you for asking.
Oh, okay. Well, you were
Thank
star.
you, Dr. Duncan.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Dr. Duncan. All right, let's see. East Iowa, are you still on the phone? East Iowa?
Hi, yes. Hi, Dr. Duncan.
Hi, how are you doing?
Probably about like everybody else, but anyway, as far as the chemtrails go in Iowa, I have been since last summer filming them, and I mean they have been bad, and I've gotten teachers to look at them too, and they are, it's like mind-boggling to them too. Even they're trying to figure out, what this is, and they even started thinking if it was a part of something to help control the population or for to limit the population, or decrease it.
Yeah, well, I mean, there are a whole bunch of possibilities. Obviously, our planet can't survive with 7 billion people and growing to 20 billion shortly. So it might be to make people infertile. Might be able to control them, subdue them, like putting Prozac in the water It might be radar grids like the aluminum strontium as a missile defense system as tensions rise with Russia or China. And it might be even weather engineering, where a lot of scientists say that we're having a greenhouse gas effect, so we got to reflect a lot of the sunlight that's hitting the Earth, and they don't want to panic the population. But I honestly don't know the answer. I haven't, studied chemtrails that much.
Yeah, it's so complicated. Anyway, I just thought I'd see if you knew anything about it. I mean, because the problem with the directed energy or whatever it is worldwide, and so are the chemtrails. I mean, there's like different sites that I show all the pictures that people keep putting in. I put some on, in the videos, and it's almost like they're related. These are two separate issues.
Get on this call and
yeah, I simply don't know. I know one woman, Cynthia Hamill, who studies chemtrails quite a bit. She has a lot of information on that. Yeah, Cynthia Hamill. She's easy to look up. She has researched the Rabbit Hole blog spot. Hamill, I think, spelled Hamil.
Okay, I'll search her then.
Yeah, she'll be able to give you some good articles and research papers on the topic.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Anybody to talk about that?
North Georgia, did you have a question?
Oh, yes, I do. Hey, Dr. Duncan, now, I'm an electrician, and with this smart meter. Yeah, okay, with the smart meter, can you explain the little way where they come in people's house off the ground in the neutral, and is there any way to counteract that?
No, I don't study smart meters, but I know what the propaganda is. It's so the meter can talk directly to the power company and then regulate the amount of power that each house gets. But people are obviously electromagnetically sensitive, so it's just like being next to a cell tower. It's probably going to have detrimental effects. All energy causes cancer. I mean, that's just a given because you're increasing the heat of the body, and certain molecules will resonate, and it's going to break DNA chains and stuff. But I don't know the actual rationale behind smart meters, if there's a conspiracy theory behind it or not.
Okay, is there anybody in your family a TI? Can you yes or no on that? Anybody in your family is a TI? You know of?
No. I have a lot of TI friends, but no, I don't. No one in my family is a TI. No.
Okay, thank you. Next question.
Okay, Connecticut, I'm sorry I missed you. Are you still there? Did you have a question? Okay,
yes,
I guess
please. Yes, please.
Okay.
And just remember, my specialty is studying mind control, the techniques of trauma-induced mind control, and that's really what I study. So I don't know too much about chemtrails or smart meters or, nanotech or anything like that. All right, go ahead and ask your question.
Yes. Hi, it's Mary in Connecticut. Thank you for coming on the show. For one, we all appreciate your encouragement and support. Thank you for all you do.
Thank you.
And I was wondering, can the average person make it through this? I was affected by breast cancer.
How long have you been?
A year ago.
Okay. Did it start a year ago? How long have you been in TI?
Well, I noticed the white strobes in my living room, I guess, the summer of 2011, which someone had mentioned were the, oh my God, I can't remember what they said, scatterback or something. Which
you have B2K and you're being tortured as well?
The tinnitus is horrible. I have active military in my neighborhood. My whole neighborhood is involved in this, at least when it comes to the Intercorp or trying to prove that I'm a Looney Tune, which I'm not. Very sensitive to electricity at this point, have been living minimally, pretty much with no power for over a year.
What's your question? What's your question, honey?
Oh, I think her question was, can the average person live through this? or is it hopeless? Is that your question, then? Yeah.
Yes. And also you
it,
mentioned that only a couple people have been taken off the program.
Yeah. It's a very small percentage that have been taken off, but in time, people learn coping mechanisms. So the tinnitus you can learn how to cope with. It won't affect you as much over time, and there's certain behavioral training exercises you can do. You can look up those online so it doesn't affect your work as much. And usually by the time someone knows they're a TI, they're beaten down financially, so you can't actually move. So let's say your neighbors are behind it. Let's just make that assumption. Well, the obvious answer would be like, well, move somewhere else. And so, for example, many TIs that I've spoken to have moved to small cities, small towns. Now, assuming you don't, that you have employment and everything else, they're able to get away from organized stalking because you know everybody. You say hi to your neighbors, you're all friends. You would know if someone moved in or didn't move in, and the whole town knows everybody. And so they can get away from organized stalking that way, if that's one of your main issues. Now, the tinnitus and torture, no, that's worldwide. You can hop on a plane 15 minutes before the plane's about to leave and just buy a random ticket. It's going to be waiting for you both on the airplane and elsewhere. And it's not somebody who got on after you with some walkie-talkie or whatever pointing at your head. But I do recommend someone like you. You're a new TI. Buy my last book, How to Tame a Demon, and it answers the majority of questions that new TIs ask, and gives some practical advice of what you can do to try to minimize and find coping mechanisms to make your life more comfortable. But like I said, do think about the long term, because you probably are going to have to deal with this for quite some time longer. And if and if you can't hold down a job, well, start going to a shrink and say, listen, I'm hearing voices, I'm crazy, and purposely make yourself crazy so you'll get disability, because that's how they're going to view you anyway, and it'll at least give you a security blanket so you don't end up on the street or something like that.
I
practical
am on
advice.
disability because of a neurological disease.
Okay. Yeah.
Narcolepsy.
I'd like to interject on that. To stay away from a psychiatric diagnosis, disability is actually acknowledging electrosensitivity as a disability. If one were to approach it with that in mind and never mention anything that would get him put in a rubber room ever, it would be a safer approach and a validated course to get that end result.
Neil, and you're right. And when I said if you go see psychologists, always see private doctors. Your records cannot be exposed. You can still buy a firearm if you want, and whatnot. It's just merely for medical, emergencies. And I do, I know a lot of TIs say, I don't trust doctors. I do not want to take drugs. But drugs is one defense against these neurological weapons, and there are many reasons for it. Is your brain is being overactivated, especially in the frontal lobes, and so there are drugs that can temper dopamine release and actually counter some of the effects. Anything that can counter the effects, and another example is panic. More they can make you panic, more irrational decisions you're going to make, and more they're going to have control of your mind and your thought processes, et cetera. Well, you could take a Valium. Now you got to be careful not to get addicted to drugs, and there are side effects, and you got to look into all of that. But you really need a full arsenal. You need shielding. You need jammers. You need drugs, meditation, a whole bunch of different fronts you need to attack it on to minimize the misery that you're undergoing. And one approach, there is no magic bullet that anyone has found thus far.
Are we going to be limited to active, high voltage Faraday cages, and nothing passive, no matter how many layers, is getting a good enough end result to be worth it. We're working on trying to reduce the cost of an effective Faraday that would reduce.
All I can say is use the scientific method, Neil, and remember that for a group of, I've estimated about 10,000 people, maybe, that are active online, that are being actively tortured, that you need a sample set of 100 people in order to prove that something works 95% without a doubt. And so you have to select TIs that you are sure that are TIs and don't have other medical issues involved when you're doing your experimentation. And passive shielding, the only thing that I know that works is a superconductor chamber. But that is very dangerous, costs probably $10,000 to make. You have to keep it cooled by liquid nitrogen, so you get a high temperature superconductor, and you can't live in a prison like that.
0 degrees, yeah.
Yeah, it's above zero, but it's liquid nitrogen. But yeah, you can't live in that, so it's not practical. And there are a lot of theories of how to disrupt the signal. Now, what your brain has done is it's lost sense of its senses. It is accepting this external energy as a correlated brain function. So you're getting multiple senses. You're getting images from a faraway source. You're getting sound from a faraway source. They can hear what you're talking about. It's sort of a bidirectional communication. And so you have 10 senses now rather than 5 or even more. And unfortunately, that's what our brain does. It will integrate and reorder to new external correlated signals. That's our very nature. There's nothing you can do about it. You say you want to block the signals. Well, how are you going to do that? I mean, it comes through your body. Tinfoil hats won't work. But if you sleep in a Faraday cage, some people say with thick metal, I would suggest new metal, which dampens the magnetic field. But you still have to have a breathing hole, and, it's a complicated design. But a lot of people have found some relief from that. Decorrelating the brain patterns, such as listening to music or having a fan on at night, I've seen EEG patterns improve greatly over 6 months. But it's a long process. It's not going to be instantaneous. Screwing up some of the receptive signals that I think we've talked about, using EMP pulse weapons and such. But the FCC is going to come down and crack down on you.
Right, yeah. They actually have jammer detectors now, I just found out.
Yeah. So, it's against the law to protect yourself, basically. But anyway, I need to get going here. I appreciate the time to speak. And I'm just want to say, you guys, hang in there. I can see that, everyone's making headway. We're reaching more and more people. I have a, enormous amount of non-TI friends who are now believers, seeing all the information that's been provided. So a greater percentage of the population is at least believing this technology is possible, but we still have to make them act or care. So is this going to happen to you? People say, they'll never go after me. I'm a nobody. They won't act on it. They won't care. It's not an immediate threat. So it's a matter of getting the right message out, in publicity, and trying to talk with one voice, one unified message when we do go public and that sort of thing. That really helps. So, I'm sorry this is all happening to people, and, it's a horrible, horrible thing, worse than what was going on with Nazi experimentation. But think that you've been brought into you've been given purpose. You've been brought into a secret war, and this is probably the most important war the human race will ever fight. This is for freedom of mind. This is for freedom of thought, not just slavery. You'll be spanked if you don't do the right thing. This is actually your self-determinism, and this is the future of the human race right now. And so I'm trying to find a bright side, but you've been given purpose. You've been called to service. So I appreciate everything everyone does. All right, you guys have a good night. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Dr. Duncan, and thank you for all your efforts in getting out the word for us. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Robert. Dr. Robert. Dr. Robert. Dr. Robert.